Genda kubanga twogera ku our main issue egenda kubeera ku mutabani wange Allan shortcut Masengere. Egenda okubeera main topic yange. If you have a weak heart, or if you're not ready, please don't join. Bw'oba omutima omunafu totwegattako. Be strong. These are very tough times, so we're going to have to still attack issues with, strength. We are going to talk about real things here, and I believe that is where the world should head. So, omutima omunafu, please, you need to get out. If your heart is weak, this is not the right page. Kansokere ddala okwebaza Katonda atuwadde obulamu okuba nti ffe abamu tukyali balamu. Let me first thank God for the fact that some of us are still alive, because some of our brothers and sisters are not here with us. And, ngere ntegeka, I'll be changing from English to Luganda, so that some people can be able to catch up with us. But of course, I believe that most people, of course, can hear, English, because we have fans all over the world. So, our first topic is going to be the death of my son. You may say, most of you would choose to say you refer to him as my nephew, which had brought some controversy because I call him my son. And I would have preferred that the next time you always pay attention to reasons why people do what they do or why they say what they say. 30 years ago, or let me say about 32 years ago, I had a sister, an elder sister of mine, who I lost. This beautiful sister of mine was my favorite sister. By that time, I was about 10 years old. Now, my sister had just given birth to this little baby, and this baby was about 1.5 months. So within that 1.5 months, my sister had asthma. So one of those times there was a roadblock. I used to stay in Kanyanya. So on the main road, that's where my grandmama's house was, where we used to live in. So there was a roadblock, and I think there was an issue of thieves or something happened there, and then there was tear gas sprayed in the night. So because my sister had an issue with asthma, that moment she developed an attack, which all of a sudden took her life. I remember I was a very young boy when my mom walked out of that bedroom, because it was me, my mom, and that sick sister of mine in that bedroom with shortcut at 1.5 months. I remember my mother walking out of that bedroom crying. First, before that, it was about 2:30 in the morning when my sister started asking my mother for water because she was feeling so thirsty. My mother refused to give her water because she always knew that people in such conditions, if you give them water or a drink, they usually don't survive. But my sister insisted and insisted, and she was crying until when my mother decided to give her just some little milk. And at that note, earlier, Shortcut was crying the 6 hours before that moment. The baby was crying throughout the last 6 hours before that moment. So what happened is my sister heard that the baby was crying, so she whispered to my mom and said, "Bring the baby and put the baby on my legs." So I personally brought the baby and put the baby on the legs, and the baby, who was crying for 6 hours non-stop without anyone knowing, all of a sudden decided to keep quiet. So at about 3 o'clock, 3:30, I had my mom come out of the bedroom crying. So I had to rush into the bedroom, and my mom had not good news anyway. Of course, as a mother, she was weak, and she had accepted that she has lost her daughter, because my sister was dying at that moment, and the baby was still on the legs. So I picked up the baby at 10 years and then walked out of the bedroom. And that began the journey of Moses Sali Bebeku and Shortcut, Allan. Now, for 32 years, this boy has been in my face. For 32 years. From that moment of 1.5 months when that boy lost the mother, that boy became my son. Those days there were no pampers, there were nappies. Nze namusibanga nappi nga nina emyaka 10. So omwana gwe nasooka okulera mu bulamu bwange is Shortcut. So he was a very lovely baby, very, 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 let me see, I'll get some pictures. I'll keep showing you a few things on my phone. He was a very handsome, lovely baby. Kwegamba nga toyina ngeri gy'oyinza butamwagala. Very quiet. Nga si muntu basically, I don't know how to say it. So this is Shortcut. Oba omulaba awo nga kito kiraba. And I'll show you a picture of my sister, and then you'll be surprised on how things happen. And this is my sister. You can see the resemblance maximally. These two look alike. So this was my elder sister, and she was my favorite, and she's the mother. So she died 32 years ago. So because I loved my sister so much, I felt like this boy Shortcut was always there to represent my sister. So that is now the journey. That's how the journey began. Now, Shortcut Allan Masengere ceased to be my nephew, and he became my firstborn. Now, many may ask, how comes it has not been put out there before? So many people have ways they deal with issues in their families, but Shortcut has been around me for all that time. But of course, as a young man, he had his own life. I remember when we got shot, when I got shot, he was also shot. We were in hospital together. We've gone through nearly everything together. I got a bit annoyed with him because he wasn't doing the things I was asking him to do, of course, as a father. But of course, as a son, he was a young man. He's a young man, 30 years old. He's in that age where he had things he wanted to do as him. But because, of course, I'm a bit older, I was kind of subjecting him to, to do what I want him to do. And those two never come together. So I got a bit mad at him. And Shortcut is a very quiet guy. So he kept quiet. But we've been in touch anyway until when the quarantine came in, when he joined a few friends there. But unfortunately, he stayed with friends who never communicated to us that the boy was sick. So until when this guy calls my wife and says, Shortcut is in hospital in Salama Road in a clinic. You guys come for your family member. So I was so much in shock and so angry for the possibility of having had my son sick somewhere, and responsible Ugandans knew that they were living with a sick person, and they never at any one time communicated to me. Here is a point when they are communicating when they cannot do anything. And they are even stating that come for your family member, come for your relative. For me, I cannot handle him. But rumor says that a few friends were with Shortcut before, and they could see that this boy was sick. But even then, maybe those friends I cannot blame, because you see the issue was they did not know how much, or maybe they didn't know, but somehow I think they knew. But all I say is, at least when you have people who are sick, please let the families know, because it's more or less not your responsibility when those people worsen. It's the responsibility of the family. It's very bad when you approach the family when it's late. So we have been in, when we were called, we went to Nsambia Hospital. I sent him to Nsambia Hospital, and we have been on that journey of Nsambia Hospital for 1.5 months. This is a very difficult time where, of course, the country is facing a lot of COVID-19. So there was a lot happening. The doctors, I personally went into Nsambia Hospital. I approached the doctors. We started on the young man. We did all kinds of tests. We did scans, MRI. The hospital did its first test of COVID, and everything was moving well until when they diagnosed tuberculosis on the brain. It was a bit difficult to find out what was wrong with that boy until when the diagnosis was final and treatment was started. I actually felt so happy when they told me that it was tuberculosis, because then I know my way around tuberculosis, and that I had people who I would call to consult. And indeed I called Dr. Stavia, who is the head of NTLP tuberculosis at the Ministry of Health. I called a few more people to confirm. I knew about tuberculosis in the lungs. I know there's tuberculosis of the bones, but I had not known about the possibility of TB for the brain. So these are some of the things that were happening in that 1.5 months. So he went through a very difficult time until when he couldn't breathe. Then we went into ICU in Nsambia Hospital. He stayed in ICU for 5 days, and then he came out very well out of ICU. We went back to the ward, and the doctors were doing everything they could do. I personally decided to have Shortcut in a general ward, not in a private room, because of several reasons. One, I felt like I should be close to where the many doctors and nurses were. And two, I felt like we should live a normal life like Ugandans and see what exactly happens in the general wards. Because of course you hear a lot negativity, most especially for Nsambia Hospital. There's a lot of negativity about it. So I said, no, let us stay. So we stayed for 1.5 months in a general ward in Nsambia Hospital. Now, events that lead to the death of Shortcut, first and foremost, when he was leaving the ICU, I called KCCA and I requested for a COVID test, my first COVID test. Of course, the hospital had done its first COVID test a bit behind, But I said that because there was 2 deaths of COVID in Zambia hospital that came, but those deaths came after my first request. I wasn't very sure about what's happening because so many people are entering into hospitals and you do not know what they are sick of. My fellow Ugandans, I want you to listen to me and listen to this part of COVID. We were in this hospital for 1.5 months. We were in the ICU for 1 week, 5 days, I mean. So I personally asked the doctors if it was okay for me to call the KCCA to come and take samples of COVID from my son weekly. Weekly. That is samples from him and samples from 2 bedside nurses. And they accepted. So the first sample was taken. When the first sample was taken, it came back after 4 days. It was negative. So now those are 2 negatives. The first one was done by the doctors, which was negative. The second one also that Bebekul did, the first that belongs to me, that was the second test, negative. So that negative, that's when we left and we went back to the ward. So 4 days in the ward, I again called the KCCA to come back and take another COVID test. So that is the test, the last test that was taken, and it was taken on Saturday. So when that test was taken on Saturday, last week, not this Saturday because today is Monday, but the other Saturday, we expected the results to be back on Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. Now, we got a scenario where Shortcut had issues with the breathing. Remember, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. And of course, these are the lungs. So I went deep inside. We did all the scannings, the MRI and everything. And I started asking all my questions until when the doctors explained to me all the way till the lymph nodes in the lungs for the possibility, because I was asking why Shortcut was having a problem with the breathing. And then I got the answers. And then I came out of the hospital, I called other doctors, and then they were explaining the same thing. Of course, patients with TB will have a problem with the breathing because it affected the lungs. Because first it was on the brain, but it was moving down in the lungs. So he was creating a lot of water in the diaphragm, one side of the diaphragm, that is one side of the lung. So they were sucking water out of him, and he was then okay. But remember, at the same time, he was creating a lot of sputum. Now, this same sputum, they could nebulize, they used to nebulize him, then the nebulization gas breaks down the sputum, and then they bring a machine to suck out the sputum so that the lungs can breathe easily. Okay? So, all these processes, I was there, I was aware, and we were going through the whole thing in my clear brain, with my clear brain. Now, last Saturday when they took the test, on Sunday, actually that same Saturday the boy was very fine, and then all over the sudden on Sunday, he was even better. He started to, to bonga, and basically he was back. He was back. And then came in Monday, the day when I decided not to go there. was Monday, because I was asking the nurse, the nurses, the bedside nurse and the doctors, and they're telling me, no, it's fine, fine. Every family member went there, and I remember, I'm going to show you a short video here of shortcut on Sunday. This is, as I remember, they sent it to me and I sent it to my mom. I'll show you this short video so that you can see that this guy had actually moved positively. If you look well here, you can see that he had gotten a smile on Monday, he's back. Okay. Okay, that's actually one. I could also show you some clips. I'm going to show you another clip that shows you how bad Shortcut was before that. So this is one of the other clips. At this moment, so you can imagine from that to the other one where he's smiling. So the doctors had done a good job and we were following up. But on Monday, he got the breathing problem again on Monday evening. It was about 6 o'clock. They called me. They told me he's not breathing well. So I asked the doctors, is it okay? I come in and what can we do? The doctor said, no, we are going to go through the same thing. We are going to do the nebulization, and then we suck out, we pump out the whole, the sputum. So as we had done it before, I thought it was the same thing. So they did it, and they kept on doing it the whole night. But Shortcut, the breathing became difficult, and he needed, at that moment, to be put back into ICU. Now, prior, we wanted to take him to a different hospital, say Mulago Hospital, but Mulago Hospital had the doctor said they had no nurse for the ICU bed. We went to different hospitals, but they could not admit. Nakasero Hospital was full, and then Novich gave some silly lame excuses that I would agree because it's your private hospital, it's okay. But I think this is where also government is going to look into certain things quickly. Here I was told at Novich that they are servicing their machines in the ICU. But of course they were worried about the COVID issue, and that's why they did not take in the patient. So we were stuck in Zambia Hospital, and at the same time, Zambia Hospital, the ICU was closed at that moment because it had 2 patients who had died of COVID. So they had sprayed it and they had closed it. And of course, in suspense, you would expect that definitely the doctors and the nurses who are working in the ICU also were under quarantine. So that means the Zambia Hospital ICU was out, which is understandable. So when this was happening to Shortcut on Monday evening, we had no option of ICU until Tuesday morning. Is it Tuesday morning? Yes, Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, when we went to the hospital at about 5 in the morning, because he wasn't fine. He was tired. Actually, it was Tuesday morning. We went to the hospital, and that's when we, luckily enough, called different other hospitals, and I had the certificate that he was COVID-free. The other one that I told you about, that certificate was about 6 days old. So I believe it was valid. So my sister called Victoria Hospital, and Victoria Hospital asked if we had that certificate. And once we sent the certificate, they agreed to take in the patient because they had an ICU bed. So we started to prepare, and we left by 7:30 on Wednesday morning. We left in Zambia Hospital and we headed to Bukoto. Now, he was breathing and he was on oxygen in the ambulance. We left in Zambia, we came through traffic jam, we followed Ginger Road. The quickest route was through Lugogo bypass. Now, I was driving behind the ambulance. But remember, Lugogo bypass has humps that are invisible. This is where the KCCA is going to come in. And this is where I am also going to become a different person when it comes to the things that people in different offices must be able to do. When this ambulance, remember, when you have a patient, you're fighting, you're trying so much, you're telling the doctors to hurry, you're asking the ambulance man to drive quickly so you can make it, or your patient can make it to hospital. And guess what happened? The ambulance hit the hump, and whatever was inside is imaginable to everyone who's watching this. At that moment, it was my sister, one nurse, my policeman, and the driver on the patient, and I was in the other car. But I could see that the ambulance flew. That there's a hump between, there's a bar, what's the name of the hideout? Immediately after hideout, as you're heading towards Kila Road, that is from Rugogo. There's a hump, but it's not visible. And there's also 2, I think they're about 2, but you can't see them. So remember, the ambulance guy is rushing for your sake. So when they hit the hump, the ambulance stopped, and everything had jumped off the boy. So the nurse tried to put back everything. We spent there about 40 seconds to 1 minute and a half. And then we drove again quickly. Lucky enough, from there was no pothole or hump. And at that moment, the ambulance got to Victoria, and I parked quickly and I came up. That's when I could see that my sister's face was not smiley. And I believe that marked the beginning of all the trouble that we have gone through. Now, the doctors in Victoria Hospital did a very good job. They tried in every way. There were more than 10 doctors on this boy in less than 2 minutes. In less than 2 minutes, there were more than 10 doctors. Let me show you something. You need to be strong if you have to see this. Sometimes we do blame. I know Zambia Hospital has been blamed for a lot of things, a lot of them. But sometimes we have to really appreciate what we get. We may not get exactly what we want, but I believe that we owe the people who sometimes work so hard to do for us what they do for us. I really appreciate what the doctors in Zambia Hospital did, and I really appreciate what the doctors in. If you take a look at this photo shows you doctors and nurses on one person in an ICU trying to revive him. If you take a look, you can see that, okay, I won't keep that for so long. So our medical personnel are very willing to deliver good services. Yes, there are those who are not. Nga bo bye bakola bali mu nsi ndala nnyo, naye in Uganda we have doctors and nurses who are willing nga ate bakozi nnyo. Where is the gap? The gap is at that moment going to depend, because now, after my boy died, we had no single idea that, of course, he was positive of COVID. Of course, we had the receipt, or the certificate. So how do you blame someone that you didn't tell me that my boy had COVID? I can't blame the hospital because the certificate was given to me. Now, I called in for a second test. Remember, that is Wednesday morning. The test was taken on Saturday. We are waiting for the results on Wednesday evening or Thursday. So that's when we did whatever we did. But because of the COVID situation, I decided we are not going to have a vigil in Kampala. Since he died in the morning, that evening, we headed to the village and we spent the night in Masaka, of course, with a few friends. And you know the rules and regulations now, the SOPs when it comes to burial, a few people, lucky enough we were. So at about on Thursday, at about midday, that's when I get a call from KCCA telling me that my boy had contracted COVID. So, of course, it was up to me in person to now let all the mourners know and to talk to them well, to make sure that all of them, we don't have a panicky situation. And indeed, I had 2 certificates of the boy when he was negative. And neither was I going to argue that the boy had contracted COVID, because already I knew right now in Kampala, the COVID has surged. It is a very bad situation that we are in Uganda. I have seen so many people argue, I have seen so many people say that it doesn't exist. I have seen so many people, it hurts. It hurts to see that our politicians, educated people in Uganda, are politicizing COVID. The situation that we have been hearing about in Italy, in the USA, could be knocking on the door. As I speak right now, my fans and friends, all the hospitals that were gazetted for COVID, all the beds are full as we speak now on this live. And the ministry is right now looking for ways. I believe by tomorrow, Nambole will be open, but Nambole won't take more than 2 weeks. It will be full. I can guarantee you that COVID is in existence. It is there. It is here. It is in the communities now. And it is because Ugandans, we refused to listen, to follow the SOPs. Someone may ask, how did the sick boy get the COVID yet he was COVID-free? The nurses are the same that we keep calling. If a nurse has not checked on your patient, you feel bad. I made 1 million phone calls because I wanted attention from doctors and nurses. You're happy when a doctor comes to check on your patient, but it's the same doctor who's checking on all the patients. It's nearly the same nurses who keep checking on the patients the same whole week. So how am I going to blame a nurse for transmitting COVID to my patient? So the situation today as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I decided to talk about Allan's death, my son's death, is not because I'm the only one who has lost a son, or he's not the first person who has died, or the last, but maybe because God gave me the gift of being famous and popular, of having a following, that maybe if I speak about this, maybe it will do an effect for my fellow Ugandans to wake up again and listen and agree and believe that COVID is real and it is here. And it is in plenty as we speak. COVID yayingidde e Uganda mungi, mwali mu bantu abasukka n'emitwalo 15 babiri, mwali mu bannayuganda. Amalwaliro gajjudde we twogerera. Nambole bagenda muggulawo, naye I believe ne Nambole agenda kujjula in less than 2 weeks. Kakati okusaba kwange kumwe ababadde bagamba nti lwaki bakubidde essimu ng'omwana amaze kufa. Why did they call you after his death to tell you that he had COVID? They are politicizing. I even actually saw a video of a lady who lost a mom who had a heart problem and other issues. For that family, they are saying that their mother died of the heart problems. Yes, she had those problems, but the death was activated by COVID. COVID agenda kuta, it kills people who have those problems because it goes to the lungs and it creates breathing issues. So already when you have a problem with the heart and your lungs are infected with COVID that same second, you have less than 36 hours to live. Abalala mwebuuza mugamba nti muli mu malwaliro, you're in hospitals jumping, dancing, and the doctors are saying you have COVID. No, it is because you don't have the chronic diseases. So it is not affecting you that much. Effect just eri ku maaso go ne gafuuka red n'okolola muko wano because obuwuka bwa COVID bubeera wano weewati mu bulago. We busooka okwebaka mu bulago, bw'onywa ennyo amazzi agookya obusinga bukirira mu lubuto ne bufa acidi naye bw'otanywa mazzi gookya wano mu bulago bwe buvaawo buyingira mu mawuggwe mu lungs kuba buba bumaze okuwera awo bwe buyingira mu lungs ne bulyoka bublockinga kati woba obadde ne TB oba tosobola kuwona mu 36 hours. So ffe twali tukimaki nga tuva ensambya okudduka ku Victoria Hospital twali tugenda kufuna ventilator because singa twatuka ku ventilator shortcut yali badde mulamu ne bwe yali badde alina covid. Kati ensonga nebanga already hampu etukubye and you see Ugandans politicizing nti lwaki baga yafudde covid. Ekyokubiri breath ye efudde lwakuba covid yazze mu mawuggwege eyabadde ateredde eggulo okitegeera eyabadde ateredde eggulo kubanga eddagala ya TB yali alimazeeko the first 2 weeks. Usually when you do the first 2 weeks of medication eya TB there are things that happen. Signs eziraga improvement zibeera obvious. Secondly oba tokyasiiga. So improvement eno gyembalaze nga smilinga iyo improvement yali afunye 2 weeks after the medication ya TB. Naye nga of course yali vulnerable to covid because obulwadde bwe bwali mawuggwe. So kati yenna yamukwatako omusawo oba nurse n'abumusiiga bwagenderawo mangu mu mawuggwe kuba gaali vulnerable. That's why yamala night number nga lwana n'okussa naye nga ate ICU y'ensambya yali nzigale. Ne tufuna ICU y'enzigule ku makya ne tutasobola kutuuka lwa hampu naye twali tumuvingidde ki okuva ensambya omwana nga contractinze covid nga amublokinze amawuggwe. Twabadde mu kuziika ne batukubira essimu we batugambye nti yafudde covid. Nebaza nnyo bakwano bange mwenna kuba mwasigadde abantu bange bonna basigadde abasawo ne bajja ne tuziika bulungi nnyo. Mutabani wange yebase bulungi nnyo ne tuwuliriza SOPs ze batuwadde naye ffenna nga bwe twavudde e Kampala ne batukebera. Now jukira nti I had also tested for covid because we used to go ffenna nga bwe twagendanga okulambula abasirikale bange babiri my 3 sisters my wife kwegamba ffenna nga bwe twagendanga mu ddwaliro bwe baamala okukebera omwana test eya Saturday naye mbayita ewange ewaka ku Sunday nembaga naffe mutukebere kuba nina abaana ewaka saagala kujja bulwadde mu ddwaliro mbuleetewa ewaka. So we also tested from home on Sunday. Now on that day when they were giving us results, I mean when the boy was dying, I also got my results back. The ones that I took for Sunday, I got them back on Wednesday. All of us were negative. Now, the two nurses, and I want you to listen to me carefully, the two nurses who were on the bedside of my son, one of them was negative and one of them was positive. He could not believe that he's positive. So I had to really speak to him. I had to really convince him. As I was talking to the authorities of KCCA, we managed to agree. And then he directed the KCCA to where he was staying. They picked him up and they took him to Mulago Hospital. On the way to Mulago Hospital, the man called me and told me, I'm feeling very weak. I'm now coughing. I'm dizzy. My head is heavy. And my nose, I can't smell anything. I told him, thank you for agreeing to be picked, because he did not believe, because he's the one who was with my son for 1.5 months, night and day. So him to be convinced that that my son died of COVID, unless if he had gotten COVID. Now, the day they picked him, that same afternoon, is when he started all the major signs of COVID. And as I speak, he's in Mulago Hospital, and he's thanking me for having convinced him to accept, because more and more signs came when he was in Mulago, and now he's being, of course there's no specific treatment, but there's monitored treatment of boosting immunity. And the main reason why they take you, the main reason why positive people have been taken in Uganda to hospitals or to isolations, is to minimize transmissions. It wasn't majorly to treat, but it was to minimize transmissions. But unfortunately, even as we are speaking today, I hope the ministry is watching me, and I hope Uganda is watching. The game plan has changed, or the game plan should change. Let us agree that Ugandans now have COVID in the community. Let's say there are 5 million people or Ugandans in Kampala during the day, and let's say there are 1 million Ugandans in Kampala in the night. So if 200 or 300,000 Ugandans catch COVID, we don't have those beds in Kampala. The game plan has changed. We don't have those facilities in Kampala. We don't have the money to build those facilities now. The president used to talk about these things. What is supposed to happen? My advice, my prayer to the ministry, to Madam Acheng, please change the formula. You can no longer take the positive people. Start new awareness. Prepare to start quarantining people in their homes, because you will not manage to quarantine people who are as strong as I am, as they've done videos in Mulago Hospital and all other places when they are dancing, yet the badly off ones are about to start. The ones who are not breathing, like my brother, he would have gotten a bed in Nakasero Hospital, but Nakasero was full. So if Mulago gets full of people who are dancing and playing music, yes, they have COVID, but that type of people should be quarantined from their homes, so that now the hospitals are cleared for the ones who move to step 2 of the sickness, because it is not it might not be so long from now that Ugandans are going to start dropping one by many numbers. So we need, I'm thinking and I'm praying, I might not be a doctor, but with the good common sense that I possess, these medical facilities should be prepared for the people who cross the line, who have breathing problems. Otherwise, the transmissions are now permanent. They are moving. Ugandans have refused to follow the SOPs. Now you have nothing to do. You just have to now save those who cross the line. And now let the awareness go back to where it started. Now, what awareness? Boosting immunity. It is time to tell Ugandans how to boost their immunity and reconfirm to them that when you boost your immunity, you will not get sick of COVID. Or if you have COVID, within 10 days, it will be clear of your body if you boost your immunity. And boosting immunity is a few things that we are lucky as Ugandans. Most of those things are surrounding us. Oranges, lemons, tangawuzi, garlic, all these things, whatever Abana Uganda, whatever you are listening to from Europe, okuva mbaganda bafa America ne Bungereza nga babagamba okweyoteza okola bichi banange akadde katuuse corona atuse ali wammwe. Remember, we don't have enough test kits. We don't have enough, governments don't have enough test kits. Someone will come and say, nge Tanzania babireka ne bitambula. Yes, they accepted, some people will live, some will die. That is the cost. I was talking to Isaac Ruchi. I want to thank Isaac Ruchi. Webale kuvayo Isaac Ruchi nokola ka video, because now it is up to us who are facing it okuddamu okuzzaamu abantu belief after politicians making people think that COVID is politics. Now it has come. And who is going to die? Omuntu wa bulijjo, omuntu wa wansi gwobadde ozanyirako nti Museveni ali mu politics wa COVID. There are even doctors, they are responsible people. Ekisinga okuluma abantu abategeevu abasomyeko kwe kuyimirira mu mikwano gyammwe ne mutandika okuga nti ebyo ebintu bya politics kulya kasente. Yes, waliwo ababbi esente za COVID, naye omukulembeze kyagamba nti COVID mutuufu gyali, banaye gyali. Muleke kubuzaabuza abantu ba wansi, bantu ba bulijjo. Kati obulwadde buyingidde ge mazima. Era kati buli muntu alwala mulekerawo okwekweka. Tuveeyo. Isaac Ruchi webale. Thank you for coming out. Thank you omusirikale yani alwadde enagulu. Afande Hassan Kasinje. Thank you so much. Webale okuvaayo. Because now the trend is people are keeping quiet. Nino omuntu omuyeka gwe ngenda okwogerako naye nkusaba naawe oveeyo. Mukwano gwange okola ku NBS oli mulago, naye nga munnamawulire yenna alina amazima nti kati naawe ali owakana, kati ng'otuula ku TV nga nkulaba obuuza ebibuuzo mbu lwaki omukulembeze kino, lwaki kino, olw'okuba munyumirwa abantu abawakanya gavumenti. Kati ku ssaawa eno oli mulago. Oli mulago okola ku NBS mukwano gwange gwe. Njagala oveeyo obulire abantu nti oli mulago bakututeyo 2 days ago. You're my best friend. Tubeera twogera ku simu. Let us save Ugandans by reassuring them the danger of COVID. Ensi yaffe njavu. Ensi yaffe tesobola ku maintaininga bintu ebyo okujjako nga twogedde amazima ate ne tu awareness ne tugirinyisa. So ensonga yange yabadde okwogera ku mutabani wange okufa kwe. Osobola okulaba nti nno COVID agenda kutta abantu bangi, n'abatalina COVID bagenda kufa naye ng'ekibasse COVID. Kubanga bw'oba olina ekizibu ekyokussa ng'olina asthma, teri ddwaliro ligenda kukukwatako okuggyako ng'ogenze mu ddwaliro erina COVID. Naye okutuuka mu ddwaliro erina COVID ogenda kubanga olwedde ebitanda byaggwawo. Omuntu yenna agenda okufuna obuzibu mu breathing tagenda kuwona. Naye ebyo byonna bijja lwaki? Bijja lwakuba Bannayuganda ba politicians bateeka ekintu mu Bannayuganda nti no muzeeyi abazanyirako politics. Muzeeyi alina emyaka egisuka mu nsanvu. Talina nsonga lwaki yalibadde azanyisa abantu ate be yasevinga mu myaka 35 emabega, ate abaleete, ate abasanjoge olw'obulwadde. N'ayogera buli kiro, n'abyogera ebintu feke nnyini Abannayuganda olw'okubanga tulina bye tweyagaliza. Bannange mwakoze bubi. Mwakoze bubi nnyo okuteeka ekintu ekyo mu bantu, kubanga abantu okubakkirizisa buto nti COVID waddala. Ffenna tugenda kuba tulina okweyambula buli lunaku tutambule nga tugamba abantu. So ensonga ezikwatagana ne COVID zezo. COVID is there, it is real. All you famous people, please come out. Mwogere eri abantu bwe mwekweka abantu tebajja kukkiriza. Nammwe ba politicians b'NRM abakuŋŋaanya abantu mwe musinze okuleeta obuzibu. Omusajja ali ku TV ekiro n'emisana agamba Bannayuganda temukuŋŋaana. With all due respect, mwenna mukimanyi nti Abannayuganda basobola okuwuliriza Museveni, naye gwe n'okulyetingawo akantu akaleeta dawutu ng'ate dawutu eyo tosobola nagijja mu bantu. NRM politicians ne mukuŋŋaanya abantu nga mukimanyi nti nno kigenda creating ku ssaawa eyo ne bw'oba tosiize bantu tebeesize, naye kigenda creatinga dawutu mbwa nga twakuŋŋaanya, kitegeeza si bituufu. Kwogatta ba politicians abali ku opposition nabo nga bagamba nga bakuŋŋaana ebya scientific election tubijjewo, kwogatta aba bagamba nti Museveni alimba balya ssente. It all comes from empulunguse eziri mu NRM ezimu eziganye okutegeera nti Abannayuganda bali willing okuwuliriza, naye naawe following amateeka. As we speak, mbadde nzijanjaba mutabani wange era ndi mu self isolation. Twakafuna test 2 zonna ziri negative, tubuzayo kufuna test endala 2. Self isolation n'emikwano gyange gyonna abasinga bali mu self isolation, and that is what should happen bw'oba ng'obaddeko mu exposure. COVID nyinza okugira nga mulekaawo, naye nsaba ministry mutunuulire mangu ekintu ekyokulaba engeri gye mufuna SOPs ez'abantu okusigala awaka. Nammwe abalina families bw'olaba omuntu nga batugambye okusigala awaka nga waliwo ewatali COVID ng'osobola okuteekayo famire yo nga gy'okizza, ng'eno ennyumba osigala obeeramu wekka, bannaye mwetegeke. Ekintu kyasajjuse, it has surged. Kyasajjuse. The word surge is in English, lucky enough ne mu Luganda kyasajjuse. COVID has come to Uganda and we are going in October, November, omwezi ogw'obunnyogovu. COVID moves so much in the cold. So that month of November is not going to be good. Era kati ne bwe mulaba enkuba etandise okukutonnyatonya ebyekisiru,